Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jeff McDonald, and this week's Spotlight lecture is on personality. Talk a little bit about Freud and Freud's theory and some of the stages and some of the ideas of Freud and his importance in the world of psychology. The perspective that's attributed to Freud is called the psychoanalytical perspective, and Freud was really looking at what he called the unconscious mind. Freud was trained as a physician, came from Vienna, and what kind of got him involved in this whole world of psychology is he was observing patients who had physical disorders and really had no real clinical cause for their disorders. One of the first patients that he looked at was a woman he would call Anna O, who suffered from paralysis on her right side. And it was really following the death of a father that she had cared for many years. And there was no real physical reasons why she should have this paralysis and some of the other symptoms that she suffered from. And so Freud began to wonder if it had to do with the stress, with the life condition that she was living in, with some of the guilt related with her father, and began to connect this idea that sometimes the mind can control the body, and that some of these unacceptable thoughts and feelings, which are really pushed away into your unconscious mind, can then manifest themselves on the body. Freud's idea of the mind looks like this, where you've got three sections. You've got the id, the ego, and the superego. And as you can look at the picture there, it shows you that the unconscious energy that we have is really below the surface, that we really don't see. What people really see is what's the ego and the superego, and that the conscious operation of the ego and superego are out there, but really what's really driving the individual is below the surface, and which is kind of inside the unconscious mind. So what are these three things, these id, ego, and superegos? The id is really the I want. This is the pleasure principle. It has its basic drives to survive, reproduce, aggress, and this is like the 2-year-old. I want, I want, I want. All they think about, they're just little bundles of id energy, and all they really care about is what they want. They don't really look to other people in terms of what other people need. They don't have any of the moral conditioning and that guilt that we give them as they grow up. The ego is the reality principle. This is the I can. This is the way you can try to satisfy some things that you want, but not everything. And what is it realistically that you can do to satisfy some of those impulses? The superego really is your moral, your ideal behavior. This is the I should part of your personality. This is that angel, and the it is the devil. They're constantly at battle. One is saying I want, which is the id. The superego is thinking what I should do. And then the mediator in the middle, which is the ego, this is the one that says, okay, this is what I can do. So your alarm clock goes up. You were out really too late, maybe had too much to drink. Alarm clock goes up, and your id pops up and says, oh, I really want to sleep. Come on, call in sick. Call in work and tell them we're sick. Do that fake sick call and make this fake sick voice, and they'll believe you can sleep all day. And then the superego says, no, 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 you shouldn't do that. You really know that's not good. You should go to work. You should get up. You went drinking. That's your own fault. You should just go to work. And then your ego says, okay, I'll tell you what. How about if I hit the snooze alarm? I won't eat breakfast. I'll just grab something quick, and then I can sleep another 10 minutes. So you go back to sleep, and you wake up 10 minutes later, okay, and you start the whole conversation again. The id's, no, call in sick. The superego, nope, you need to get up. You should get up. This is what you did this on your own. You have a job. And then your ego constantly goes back and forth and tries to mediate between these two. Now, sometimes the id wins. Sometimes the superego wins. But a healthy person is operating with a healthy ego, and they can make judgments. They can make plans. They can make decisions balancing these two parts of their personalities, the ego and the superego. The other thing Freud said is that we develop our personality very, very young, and things that happen to us when we are very young really affect us throughout our whole life. And so he said the oral stage is the first stage. This is 0 to 18 months. Everything comes from the mouth. Your mouth is your main sensory organ. This is why little children always put everything in their mouth. And Freud said if you were made to feel that you are bad for putting things in your mouth, whether it be your thumb, whether it be the bottle, whether it be the breast, you basically spend the rest of your life trying to repeat that, trying to get that back. And so you may chew on pen tops, you may chew on pencils, you may bite your fingernails. The anal stage, 18 to 36 months, is really that period where you're being potty trained, and pleasure comes from being able to evacuate your bowels, evacuate your bladder, and trying to learn control. So what initially is this great sense of freedom that you can kind of just do your bowel movements and your bladder release in your pants, and people clean up after you. After a while, it's not considered fun anymore. Children are considered to be bad or dirty if they poop their pants or if they pee their pants. And so you go from being able to do this, that freedom, to being this control. And if you're become fixated at that stage where you're made to feel bad for doing that, you become either anally fixated or anal repressed. And so the idea that if you're anally fixated, you spend the rest of your life trying to be clean, trying to be very orderly, trying to be very nice. The anal expulsive personality just embraces it and just is a slob. And so you realize that you can't be clean, so you just kind of you live like a slob. And so the old comedy, The Odd Couple, with Felix and Oscar being the two, Felix being the anal expulsive, or Felix being the neat one, the anal retentive, and Oscar being the anal expulsive, the sloppy one. These are the two sides of the anal stage according to Freud. The phallic stage, this is the 3 to 6 years where children recognize they have genitals that are different than others. And Freud says this is where males suffer with what's called the Oedipus complex, where they fixate on the mother. Males will compete with the father for the affection of the mother. And when we look in our society, we often see this special connection relationship between mothers and their sons, and also daughters and their fathers, this opposite sex attraction. While Freud thought saw this to be of a sexual origin, most times other people look at this as more of an social origin, where in weddings the boy will dance with his mother, the girl will dance with their father, and this is more of a social thing, because honestly, if you are trying to imitate the same-sex parent, it would seem natural that you would be attracted to the same type of people your same-sex parent is attracted to in the opposite sex. So while Freud saw this is mostly sexual, psychosexual, most people today see that much more social. Latency is age 6 to puberty, where really everything kind of goes dormant. This is the cootie phase, where kids are in elementary school, and there's this real separation between boys and girls. Boys don't really socialize with girls. If a boy seems to like a girl, he gets teased because of it. And that will all change once they hit puberty. And they're basically learning what it is to be a boy, what it is to be a girl, learning those gender roles. And then the genital from puberty on, which is the maturation of sexual interest. Everything that's learned up until then will then be part of the person's personality when they enter into puberty, and will really seem to control and dictate what kind of relationships they have with members of the opposite sex. Pros and cons of Freud. A lot of people contradict today some of Freud's idea. They see development being lifelong, not just in childhood. Basically, Freud thought your personality was created before you ever entered elementary school. But a lot more psychologists now say that it just continues into adulthood. He really overestimates the parental influence, downplays the peer influence. The idea of an Oedipus complex, where the boy being attracted to the mother, goes back to the old Greek story of Oedipus Rex, who murdered his father and married his mother without knowing it. Again, people have questioned that, saying that was Freud's. Freud basically only treated female patients other than himself. The only people he treated were females, and so he has a very sexist attitude, seeing women as inferior, and so this would explain the Oedipus complex. Things like penis envy, that women suffer from penis envy when they want to act like a man in society. And so a lot of those things have been challenged today. Belief that dreams disguise and fulfill wishes is really disputed. See, Freud saw a lot of dream interpretation as sexual symbolism, And so a lot of that has been criticized today. His scientific methodology, by just analyzing specific case studies and having no real experimental trials, scientific method being used to show the basis of his theories, has really been called into question. And his explanations of characteristics are usually after the fact. He can't really predict behaviors. He's just looking at a specific behavior and say, okay, something in the past, this is what created it, rather than trying to predict behaviors and traits. So while people still look to Freud as being a pioneer, and he was, because a lot of what we know now in psychology and what we look for in psychology would not have been possible without Freud, there's still a lot of criticism about Freud's theories today. And that's it for this Spotlight lecture. That was on personality. I'm Jeff McDonald, and we'll see you next time.